My husband, who had been dead for years, came back to life. He brought with him a graceful village woman and 5 children who bore a striking resemblance to him. When he saw the dilapidated Marquis' mansion, he went mad and demanded, "Where is my mansion?" I smiled and told him, "Old man, weren't you notified when the mansion was confiscated?" "Madam, it's terrible. The young master has risen from the dead, and he brought back a female ghost." Hearing the maid's words, the cucumber on my face nearly flew off. But over the years, I'd long since mastered the art of remaining unflappable even when mountains crumbled before me. I asked slowly, "How is he alive? What proof do you have that he's my husband?" The maid stammered for a long time, unable to make sense of it. "It's just, he looks like him." "Nonsense. My husband has been dead for 10 years. By now, he'd be old enough to attend school. How could he possibly be alive?" I lifted the cucumber from my eyes. "Let's go. I want to see what kind of demon dares to impersonate my late husband." When we reached the courtyard gate and I saw the man standing outside, I knew for certain. The man before me was indeed my husband, who had been dead for 10 years. Beside him stood a plainly dressed yet strikingly beautiful woman. I must admit she possessed a certain allure. Even after bearing children, her figure remained unblemished, and every gesture carried a hint of seductive charm. The maid had not only lied about the situation but also brought along a female ghost and 5 little ghosts. At a glance, 5 children in 10 years, she certainly was fertile. Upon seeing me, my husband gave me a contemptuous once-over. His expression displeased. "Madame Du, is this how you've managed the Marquis' household?" Just as I was about to speak, he turned to the village girl. "Li Nyang, you're not feeling well. Go inside first." The tallest child piped up, "Father, is this our home? It's so big and grand." The woman called Li Nyang smiled gently. "Listen to your father. From now on, this is where we'll live." With that, Li Nyang led the children inside. The maid acted swiftly, blocking the doorway with her arms spread wide. "You're not coming in." I feigned shock. "What Marquis mansion? Who are you?" The maid, still shaken, piped up, "Some country bumpkin dares impersonate our late master." "Mistress, should we report this to the authorities?" Blocked at the entrance, Li Nyang looked flustered. She anxiously glanced at her husband, while the 5 children fidgeted uneasily. The youngest child glared at me fiercely, his eyes like poison. I ignored him and turned to my husband. "Old sir, you must have the wrong door. When I married him years ago, he was indeed quite handsome. But now, weathered by time, the years had left their mark on his face. He still carried an air of handsomeness, but with that disheveled outfit and grimy appearance, calling him old man was practically polite. Not so for me. These past 10 years, I've feasted on fine foods, slept well, and often hosted beauty treatments with other noble ladies of the capital. My face remains as soft and supple as a maiden's." "Madame Du, what do you mean by that?" My husband was furious. "This is my Marquis' residence. When did I ever enter the wrong door?" I looked at him in astonishment. "Old man, weren't you notified when the Marquis' residence was confiscated?" 10 years ago. I was still a carefree young girl. Then I suddenly found myself transported into a novel, destined to become the future noble lady who would manage her husband's estate through hardship and sacrifice. My husband vanished without a trace and never returned. The Marquis erected a symbolic grave for him, pinning all blame for his disappearance squarely on me. I knew the subsequent plot well. He would meet a beautiful female lead in the countryside, bear her a string of children, and years later return triumphantly with his offspring. Meanwhile, I would manage the Marquis for a decade, pouring my heart and soul into securing the futures and marriages of his younger brother and sister. To sustain the estate's expenses, I would squander my entire dowry, only to end up with a good reputation but nothing else, left with neither man nor fortune. A young maiden turned into a haggard old crone, only to be cast aside when he returned with his beautiful village wife. The adulterous pair reveled in the fortune I had built, accusing me of being useless all these years. What a brilliant scheme indeed. So the moment I stepped into the wedding palanquin, I was prepared. Since we were destined to be strangers, why should I waste my energy supporting his family? When I was placed upon my husband's bed, he didn't even touch me, leaving only the blood from his fingertips on the sheets. He declared, "Madame Dew, I married you for your virtue and wisdom. Henceforth, the entire Marquis' household shall be under your stewardship. Whoever believes that is a fool. Without funds or keys to the storehouses, how could I manage?" He was clearly waiting for me to use my dowry to prop him up. I'm the daughter of a renowned salt merchant from Jiangnan. When my father and brothers came to the capital, their pomp and circumstance made everyone envious. Had he not secretly undermined them, leading to their imprisonment, I wouldn't have been rushed into this marriage. Alas! He calculated every detail, believing my virtue and my family's wealth would sustain his marquisate and raise his younger siblings. He calculated my character. He calculated my family background. But he didn't calculate that the one inhabiting this body is me, a consummate self-interested individual. According to the plot, less than a month after our marriage, he vanished during an autumn hunt. All that remained in the woods were shreds of his clothing and a blood-stained finger. Everyone assumed he'd been devoured by beasts, expressing deep pity for me, his new bride. Some even whispered behind my back that I brought misfortune to my husband's. Only I knew the truth. He'd already run off with his beautiful village lover, Mimi. With him gone, I shed all pretense. My younger brother-in-law, raised under my rod to become the capital's most elegant young gentleman? What nurturing! Of course, it was free range. My younger sister-in-law, the capital's most beautiful woman, cultivated with real gold and silver under my careful guidance? What pampering! Of course, it was pampering to death. I did indeed take good care of the Marquis' residence for him, but his siblings were simply useless. At this moment, my husband was staring intently at me. He finally noticed the dilapidated gate of the Marquis' residence and the plaque long since removed. The once grand estate now stood without even a gatekeeper. Glancing around, the flowers and plants in the courtyard had long since lost the meticulous care they once bore. I clapped my hands. Oh my! Look at his face, he bears a striking resemblance to my late husband. Could he be a relative of the Marquis' family? I then turned to the maid. Remember those worthless tea leaves left after the confiscation? Put them out to dry in the sun. Serve some tea to this gentleman. The maid hurried off to brew tea, nodding eagerly. I turned to my husband with a warm smile. Come in quickly. How much money did you bring for your journey to the capital? If you wish to stay here, you must pay. But since your family, I'll charge your family of 7 just 1 tael of silver for the night. I even pulled out my abacus as I spoke. These are hard times. A widow like me struggles to make ends meet. You understand, don't you, old gentleman? My husband's face flushed crimson with rage. He raised his hand to strike me. Lin Yang quickly stepped in. Hongfei, your wife must not recognize you anymore. What mistress? My expression hardened instantly. I drew a wolf-tooth club from behind my back and smashed it into my husband's face. As I struck him, I screamed, I'm a pure widow. Who the hell are you? Some mud-legged peasant, daring to claim my husband's name? Who in the capital doesn't know my short-lived husband was devoured by wolves and tigers during the autumn hunt? Who the hell are you, daring to claim my husband's name? As I spat these words, a stream of saliva landed on the ground. Just then, a maid hurried over carrying a bowl of cold tea. Madam, we've run out of firewood and tea leaves. I scooped water from the pond to steep this tea and plucked a few leaves from the tree. I hope our honored guest won't mind. Oh, how thoughtful. My brother just sent Westlake Longjing yesterday. I won't let this shameless creature have it cheaply. No sooner had she finished speaking than I snatched the teapot and flung its contents at the group of 7. Xiao Hongfei dodged in time. But Lin Yang wasn't so lucky, she was drenched head to toe. To my surprise, a few tadpole eggs clung to Lin Yang's hairpin, wriggling incessantly. Unaware, she continued to feign vulnerability with her handkerchief. I nearly burst out laughing, quickly reminding myself, a good actor never cracks up on stage. Arms akimbo. I scowled defiantly. Get lost. Have suitors become this shameless nowadays? Clearly, Xiao Hongfei valued his dignity. My barrage of insults and gestures dissuaded him from entering. His gaze grew colder and colder. But what was he, anyway? Did I need to care about his opinion? With a loud slam, I shut the dilapidated door, barring the entire family of 7 from entry. I turned and shared a knowing smile with my maid. Back in the courtyard, the maid voiced her worry. Madam, what if he finds someone to verify his identity? I returned to my chair, resuming my cucumber facial. Who would he go to? The Xiao family's reputation was long ago squandered by his lovely brother and sister. Throughout the entire Xiao estate, only this unfortunate widow remains untarnished. The capital's political landscape shifts in the blink of an eye. Does he still think he's that arrogant Marquis Xiao from 10 years ago? Having been reborn, I knew full well Xiao Hongfei would return. I'm an educated woman. Rebirth, time travel, revenge plots, tortured love stories, humiliating comebacks. I know every cliché inside out. These past 10 years, I certainly didn't sit idly by. I schemed to tarnish the Xiao family name, eroding every shred of Xiao Hongfei's former prestige. If he tries approaching his old associates now, he'll be thrown out. Not handing him over to the authorities would be the height of mercy. After all, just 2 months ago, the Xiao family had been stripped of their assets. If he claimed to be a surviving heir now, he and those 5 children would end up in the imperial dungeons. So the next day, someone knocked on my door again, sleepy-eyed. I pulled open the door to find Xiao Hongfei standing there, dressed in fresh clothes and wearing a face of fury. Old man, why are you alone today? I scrutinized him up and down, asking in shock. You didn't sell your wife and children to buy new clothes, did you? I spat at his feet. Bah. Abandoning your family, you're no man at all. Xiao Hongfei frowned. Du Yuyan. Stop pretending. You know who I am. With no one around, I leaned lazily against the doorframe. Who are you? You truly don't know me? He roared with fury. I rescued you from prison, spared you from disaster, and this is how you repay me? I nodded repeatedly. Who in the capital doesn't know Widow Du's unlucky fate, how I cursed my new husband to death? Even a 3-year-old could recite your story backwards. He still wore that cool, brooding frown. No one else is here. You don't need to pretend. I truly don't know you, I replied, maintaining my unhurried demeanor. Those who achieve great things must guard their tongues. Many things, even if I'm lying in my coffin, I'll never speak of. He scrutinized me for a long while, then suddenly laughed. Du Yuyan, you don't think that by getting my brother's wife thrown into the imperial dungeon, the entire Xiao family will now belong to you, do you? I'll take the fall for them and get them out. Then, in front of everyone, I'll expose your true face, letting the whole world know what a poisonous woman you are. You're insane. To blurt out his entire plan like that, was he brainless? Or just stubborn? I slammed the door shut. Still, I was somewhat curious. What could this man, who'd lived as a country bumpkin for 10 years, possibly accomplish? Thinking back on what I'd done these past decade, just to survive, was it easy? My mother-in-law was constantly dependent on medicinal soups. After Xiao Hongfei was buried in a symbolic grave, she ordered me to attend to her bedside. Sometimes she wanted tea heated to just the right temperature. Other times she demanded her medicinal soup with 3 pieces of rock sugar. I wasn't allowed to sleep in a bed, I had to make a makeshift one on the floor beside hers. Always ready to bring her food or water. Countless times in the dead of night, I was kicked awake by her foot merely because she needed to spit. She relished treating her daughter-in-law like a slave. Every time she saw my submissive, downcast gaze, a flicker of satisfaction danced in her eyes. Coughing, she ordered, "Do sure. I'm unwell today. Go copy several scrolls of scripture for me." I dared not protest, kneeling before Lin Shu's bed to copy the scriptures. By the time I finished one copy, the characters were utterly illegible. Lin Shu glared at my writing, fuming. "Is this the handwriting of a Jiangnan woman?" I replied innocently, "Mother-in-law, my writing is perfectly neat. It must be your illness clouding your vision." As I spoke, I handed her the tampered-with volumes. "Look at these characters, aren't they just as neat as mine?" Madame Lin refused to believe my deception. "Impossible. How dare you? You've dared to deceive me. You venomous woman. How could I be a poisonous woman?" I asked innocently. "Mother, everything you eat, wear, and live with comes from me. If I were truly poisonous, I would have laced your medicine long ago. Would you still be alive today?" After speaking, I gave a little wink, adopting the guileless, innocent look of a twisted killer. Lin Shu was so frightened she fainted on the spot. The elderly truly have fragile minds, they fall asleep without so much as a word. I ordered the maids to swiftly remove the books and copied sutras before me, then summoned the 3rd young miss of the household. The 3rd young miss wore a haughty expression, bearing no trace of the graceful lady described in the texts. She eyed me askance, her tone haughty. "Why summon me? My mother needs your service, not mine." No sooner had she spoken than Lady Lin regained consciousness inside and cried out, "Sheer, is that you? Sheer? Hurry in. Lady Du is a poisonous woman. How dare you harm my mother?" The 3rd young miss's eyes widened. Forgetting all else, she rushed into the room. Lin immediately pointed at me. "Sheer, be careful. This poisonous woman laced my medicine with toxins. Hurry to the palace and summon the imperial physician. He must treat me properly." Xiao Yushi shoved me aside, ordered guards to restrain me, and took her palace pass to enter the palace. Before the palace gate closed, she brought the imperial physician back to the room. After examining Lady Lin, the physician frowned. Lady Lin beamed. "Physician, did this poisonous woman poison my soup? Hurry back and report to the Empress Dowager. She deserves death for this." The physician replied, "Every ingredient you've used is of the finest quality. Not only would they cure your chronic ailments, but they would also strengthen your constitution." As the physician finished speaking, Lady Lin's expression changed. "Impossible. She just threatened me, insisting that crooked characters were straight." Lady Lin reached for the book I had placed by her pillow earlier. The moment she opened it, she froze. The characters had straightened. I wiped away tears beside her. "Doctor, please don't blame the old lady. Every herb she took came from the finest medicines in my dowry. If you doubt it, you may inspect each box. As for the writing, I truly don't know why she claimed it was crooked." The physician's expression shifted unpredictably. After taking her pulse again, his face grew grave. He summoned me and Xiao Yushi outside. "The matriarch likely suffers from hysteria. That's why she suspects those around her of harming her and imagines things that don't exist." Xiao Yushi froze, then hurriedly turned to me. "Did you poison her?" My sister-in-law's words. "My husband is already gone. If even you don't believe me, Du Yu Yan, I have no reason to live. With that, I turned and plunged headfirst into the lotus pond less than a meter deep. Lady Lin, now diagnosed with hysteria, began consuming bitter herbal concoctions. Fearing I might poison her, Xiao Yushi personally supervised every dose. Even the ingredients were procured by Xiao Yushi's own maid. I was completely excluded from the process, merely providing the funds. Those concoctions only made her more drowsy. Lady Lin lay in bed all day, too exhausted even to torment me. I set up a table at the entrance of the Xiao residence, copying sutras with a brush. To every passer-by, I cried out, "My mother-in-law has hysteria." As her dutiful daughter-in-law, I can do nothing but copy sutras to pray for her recovery. By the end of the day, I hadn't even finished copying a single sutra. Yet the entire capital knew Lady Lin had hysteria, and I was the most devoted daughter-in-law, copying sutras in tears before the Marquis's mansion. Even the Empress Dowager was moved upon hearing this. She granted me an audience and bestowed a chastity arch upon me. Every medicine has its side effects. Later, a cold took Lady Lin's life. Before her coffin, I wept more inconsolably than Xiao Yushi had when his own mother died. The louder I cried, the better my reputation grew. No one accused me of bringing misfortune upon Lady Lin. The chastity arch bestowed by the Empress Dowager still hung in my chamber. With Lady Lin gone, control of the household finances fell into my hands. Xiao Yushi disliked me intensely. But now that I held sway over the entire Marquis's residence, she had no choice but to comply. I specially requested 3 governesses from the Empress Dowager's palace. Xiao Yushi struggled in her room. "Let me out. I don't want to learn any etiquette. I want to go out and play." Though young, she possessed tremendous strength, and the 3 palace matrons couldn't restrain her. Watching Xiao Yushi beat the 3 matrons senseless before storming out of the Xiao residence, I shook my head helplessly at them. Please forgive my sister. Matrons. She's been unruly since childhood, but with proper guidance, she'll surely find the right path." As I spoke, I presented them with generous gifts. Having accepted the presents, the matrons could say little more and had no choice but to continue disciplining Xiao Yushi on my behalf. But how could she possibly be disciplined? I praised Xiao Yushi, telling her she was unmatched in heaven and earth. She actually began to believe her own hype. Though she looked down on me, she couldn't resist my flattery. She grew even more arrogant, refusing to listen to anyone. A single whip became her ticket to get her way everywhere. Thus, Xiao Yushi's reputation for arrogance and tyranny reached the palace, then spread throughout the capital. Yet I was merely a devoted elder sister-in-law, pouring my heart and soul into guiding my younger sister-in-law back onto the right path. School? What a joke! We had palace tutors coming to our home. Why would she need to learn to read? When Xiao Yushi reached marriageable age, I arranged several matches for her, but she rejected them all. She either scorned suitors for lacking wealth or complained they weren't handsome enough. In the end, she even resented me, accusing me of hiding better options from her. In the end, she chose Xiao Hongfei, a subordinate whose wife had died, becoming his secondary wife. Her husband's career had been stagnant, but after marrying the Marquis's legitimate daughter, his ambitions surged, and he resolved to make his mark in the court. But Xiao Yushi, spoiled by my lavish upbringing, couldn't bear the downgrade in her lifestyle. She began whispering seductive words in her husband's ear, tempting him down the path of corruption. When he was caught for the first time, Xiao Yushi came to me, begging me to bail her husband out. So I clutched the keepsake, weeping and wailing, and sought out Xiao Hongfei's brothers. Without spending a single coin, I used nothing but my silver tongue. I brought up Xiao Hongfei, tugged at their old brotherly bonds, and got Xiao Yushi's husband released. Time and again, the couple grew bolder, knowing I'd always bail them out. 3 months ago, The imperial examinations exposed this brother's deeds, landing both husband and wife behind bars. This time, even the current chancellor couldn't secure their release. And now, Xiao Yushi stands before me. Xiao Hongfei actually managed to get his sister out. Only his sister, not his brother-in-law. Xiao Yushi, Du Yuyan. How dare you not recognize my brother? He's clearly my brother. Hand over everything belonging to the Xiao family immediately. Though she was disheveled and grimy, her eyes burned with greed for my possessions. I slammed the table. You people are utterly brazen. Not only did you impersonate my late husband, but now you're pretending to be my sister-in-law still imprisoned in the heavenly prison. Didn't you do your homework before impersonating people? Xiao Yushi sneered coldly. My brother has plenty of ways to get me out. If you hand over the treasures now, I'll have him spare you a proper burial. Are you really Xiao Yushi? I stared at her, my face impassive. Xiao Hongfei, who had remained silent, snorted coldly. Madame Du, I have no idea what game you're playing. Now that someone can verify my identity, hand over the Xiao family's land deeds at once. Xiao Yushi chimed in. It's this lady speaking. No doubt about it. I am the legitimate daughter of the Marquis's household. Reclaiming our Xiao family's land deeds is only right and proper. No sooner had she finished speaking than a group of officers burst through the door. The moment they appeared, Xiao Hongfei leaped onto the roof beam and hid. I feigned a delicate demeanor. Honorable officers, please take this prisoner from the dungeon at once. You heard her claim to be of the Xiao lineage. I wonder why this prisoner from the dungeon would appear here. When you report to the magistrate, please stand up for this humble maiden. The leading officer bowed to me. Madame Du, rest assured, our magistrate will investigate this matter thoroughly. Guards, take Xiaoshi away. The officers pinned Xiao Yushi to the ground, ignoring her cries as they dragged her away. Once they were gone, I spoke slowly. Old man, I never expected you to be so agile. Can you come down from the beam in my house now? I deliberately emphasized the words my house. Xiao Hongfei leapt down from the beam and suddenly lunged to grab my throat. As long as you die. I snapped my fingers. Instantly, a group of black-clad figures burst into the previously empty courtyard. Within 5 seconds, Xiao Hongfei was pinned to the ground by several swords, forced to his knees. I looked down at him from above. You didn't think a widowed woman with no husband and no family would come unprepared, did you? After suffering humiliation at my hands, Xiao Hongfei vanished for several days. His absence suited me just fine. As the day of Xiao Hongqing's execution approached, I applied my finest widow's makeup, donned plain white robes, and made my way to the market entrance, weeping openly. Seeing me arrive, several acquaintances tried to dissuade me. Madame Du, you've endured so much these years. Now that the traitor Xiao is dead, everyone knows you had nothing to do with it. But you shouldn't watch the beheading later, it's terribly gruesome. Ah, Madame Du, truly a woman of misfortune. I thanked them for their concern, dabbing at non-existent tears with my handkerchief. My purpose today was to display my vulnerability and to witness Xiao Hongqing's death with my own eyes. Xiao Hongqing was an anomaly in the household. After Xiao Hongfei vanished, he devoted himself diligently to his studies, always observing proper etiquette toward me. Even when Lady Lin slandered me relentlessly before his face, his treatment of me never wavered. He refused to marry even when he reached marriageable age, though he held a position in the bureaucracy. Whenever he shared wine with colleagues, he would sit silently, gazing toward home with his cup in hand. And when drunk, he would murmur my name. Sounds like the beginning of a beautiful uncle-niece romance story, doesn't it? No one knew Xiao Hongqing had a taste for young men. The pages and servants around him came and went. Who knows how many he played with to death. Not only did he favor male beauty, but he preferred the younger ones. while others believed he was deeply infatuated with a stunningly beautiful widow. I was merely his shield. Under his subtle hints, everyone assumed I was already his mistress. In the book, the original protagonist was falsely accused of having an affair with Xiao Hongqing. The pure and flawless Lin Yang naturally appeared more chaste than I. Dealing with a man blinded by lust was surprisingly simple. I sent Xiao Hongfei's closest brother, the son of a general, to Xiao Hongqing's bed. Just as Xiao Hongqing was in the throes of passion, the general, alerted by rumors, caught them in the act. He brutally broke one of Xiao Hongqing's legs. The general's son lay unconscious. Had I not used 1,000-year-old ginseng to keep him alive, the general's only heir would have perished. This act severed Xiao Hongfei's best friend from the Xiao household, who vowed to kill Xiao Hongqing. At that time, Xiao Hongqing, who was supposed to inherit the marquis title, was forcibly blocked. The vast marquisate had no marquis. No heir apparent, only me bearing the title of marquise. Xiao Hongqing wasn't a fool. He eventually realized it was I who had sent the man to his bed. But he realized it far too late. Dressed in plain white robes, I knelt before the golden throne hall all night, holding a blood-stained letter. I detailed how Xiao Hongqing had brutally murdered countless young boys, how he had bullied and oppressed men outside the estate, and how he had exploited the marquis's name to collude with officials, plundering the people's wealth. Each case was horrifying. The emperor, upon hearing this, flew into a rage. Yet he found me remarkably impressive. Coupled with the Empress Dowager's intercession, he spared me blame, directing his wrath solely at the Xiao family. After a series of maneuvers, the emperor revoked the marquis title. The world knew no more of the Marquis Xiao. The emperor bestowed upon me an additional imperial decree, granting me the Xiao family's mansion. He personally inscribed the plaque for its gate. Only, these past few days, the ink has not yet dried. I have yet to hang it. I, Du Yuyan, am the widow officially designated by the emperor's seal. Were my husband to appear now, it would constitute the crime of deceiving the sovereign. Xiao Hongqing's offenses were profoundly grave. Coupled with the general's strict security, even if Xiao Hongfei wished to storm the imperial prison to rescue him, it would be futile. Scanning the crowd, I quickly spotted Xiao Hongfei. I slowly made my way over, though the throng of onlookers made progress painfully slow. Before long, I reached Xiao Hongfei's side. He stood facing his former sworn brother, his expression grim. His first words were accusatory. "We were brothers. Why couldn't you even protect my younger brother?" General Jing shot Xiao Hongfei a cold glare. "My brother died 10 years ago. Who the hell are you? You scoundrel. To dare impersonate him?" Xiao Hongfei nearly choked on his breath. After a decade as an ordinary commoner, did he really believe he was still the heroic Marquis Xiao of old? "But I can help you one last time," he whispered, lowering his voice. Just as Xiao Hongfei was about to express his gratitude, General Jing suddenly bellowed, "There are more remnants of the Xiao clan here." No sooner had the words left his mouth than the moment for beheading arrived on the platform. Xiao Hongqing's head whipped toward this direction, locking eyes with Xiao Hongfei. Before the brothers could exchange a single word, the blade rose and fell, severing the head. The crowd erupted in cheers. Amidst the chaos, Xiao Hongfei swiftly made his escape. General Zhang's final favor was merely to grant the brothers one last meeting. I brought back Xiao Hongqing's head and tossed it into the Xiao family ancestral hall, lighting a stick of incense as I did so. "Ancestors of the Xiao family, I have returned your unfilial son," I declared. "You may now rest easy and move on. This vast house, filled with so many spirit tablets, keeps me awake at night. This house now belongs to the Du family. You can hide away in the boxes." With that, I manually stuffed the spirit tablets into the prepared boxes. These boxes were the largest and most expensive ones I brought when I married into the Xiao household. Originally, they held my silver, which had been mostly depleted over the past decade. But it didn't matter. One box gone. Several more remained. Now that my father and brothers have opened up the maritime trade, I dare not even imagine how wealthy our family has become. After placing all the spirit tablets, I clapped my hands. 2 bodyguards appeared silently, carrying the boxes out to the courtyard. Burning these spirit tablets would be a waste. Better to keep them for now, they might come in handy later. I specifically instructed the servants to take a wide detour around the spirit tablet boxes. Who knows what might crawl out of them? I looked up at the inscription on the Shao family ancestral hall and ordered the servants, bring my chastity arch. Hang it up. Ah. I truly am a widow of the highest virtue. Bereft of my husband. As night fell, a figure suddenly appeared in my chamber. I snapped awake, glaring coldly at the man kneeling before me. What do you want? He seized my hand abruptly. Madam, you've suffered these past years. Let me return and care for you properly. In the hazy moonlight, his face seemed more handsome than usual. He had good looks to begin with, who knows how much makeup he slathered on today to come find me. I withdrew my hand without showing emotion. You're exaggerating. I'm just a woman whose husband died. I've grown accustomed to it over these past 10 years. Xiao Hongfei raised his voice. Madam, I am not dead. It was all Lin Yang. She seduced me while I was wounded and used the children to force me to stay. Those children are the flesh and blood of the Xiao family. I had no choice but to remain. I asked suspiciously, is that true? Seeing my hesitation, Xiao Hongfei visibly relaxed. It is true. I returned because you still hold a place in my heart. Please let me come back. Lin Yang has endured hardships these years, if not for merit, then for endurance. Let her be my concubine, or even without formal status. Rest assured, you will always be the rightful wife of this household. As for those children, they're merely a few extra sets of chopsticks. I promise they won't interfere with you in the slightest. His words left me utterly bewildered. Was he begging me for a favor? Or demanding one? Still, I was curious, what exactly was he up to with this act? I cleared my throat. An idea forming. I'll give you a chance. But it depends on how you behave. No sooner had I spoken than he suddenly embraced me. Goosebumps prickled my skin before he released me. His voice dripped with sweetness. My lady, if you're willing to acknowledge me, I'll do whatever you desire. Anything? My eyes, laced with amusement, scanned his form before I spoke. Go empty the chamber pot. The flush that had just touched his cheeks vanished instantly. I regarded him with a half-smile. Didn't you just say anything was possible? Why the sudden hesitation now? Seems you weren't sincere after all. He gritted his teeth and stood up. I'll go now. Xiao Hongfei bowed low before me. Within days, he brought back Lin Yang and the 5 children. Xiao Hongfei beamed with eagerness. Madam, from now on, these 5 children are ours. If you treat them as your own, they will surely repay you. Is that so? The 5th son was notorious in the book for his cunning and cruelty. Anyone who crossed him would never live comfortably again. He's Lin Yang's sharpest blade, famously protective of his mother. Each of these 5 children has their own unique talent. It's been too long since my rebirth, I've nearly forgotten the other's special abilities. I pulled out an abacus and clicked away for a while. 5 children to feed, clothe, and educate. This is nothing like the simple addition of 5 extra chopsticks we originally agreed upon. They're so young. They can't work yet. Finally, I slammed the abacus down. If you want to eat, you must work diligently in this household. If you act like spoiled young masters and mistresses, the Du household cannot afford to keep you. With that, I clapped my hands. Immediately, servants brought 7 sets of clothes in different sizes. 1 for each child. 2 sets remained. I shot Xiao Hongfei a sideways glance. What are you staring at? Don't you and Lin Yang eat? The pair looked thoroughly reluctant, but eventually took their 2 sets of clothes. Renaming the Shao Manor to the Du Manor took considerable effort. I altered several courtyards and adjusted the feng shui. Most notably, I filled in the pond I'd once leaped across and built a rock garden in its place. For the next month, Xiao Hongfei, his Li Nyang, and the 5 children worked tirelessly in my home. They were so exhausted each day they didn't even have time to exchange a word with me, which suited me just fine. He did possess a certain charisma, though, quickly bonding with several servants in the household as if they were brothers. He began inquiring about the most valuable items in the mansion, such as my dowry. One dark and stormy night, the largest and heaviest dowry chest in the courtyard vanished. Gone too were Xiao Hongfei, Li Nyang, and their 5 children. A maid burst into my room in a panic. "Madam, what should we do? Should we report this to the authorities?" I waved my hand decisively. "Of course we should. Tell the authorities that the Xiao family's poor relatives from the countryside stole an entire chest of my dowry. Let me calculate, it's roughly 10,000 taels of gold." The maid quickly covered my mouth. "Madam, isn't this extortion?" I lowered my voice. "What's there to fear? No one knows what that chest contained. Just report it as is. Once the whole world knows those 6 are carrying 10,000 taels of gold. If I can't touch them, who can? It'll also spare me their constant hovering around me." The maid finally understood. She quickly took a bodyguard and went to report it to the authorities. Outside the dowry chest, I'd secured it with a full 99 padlocks. The chest itself wasn't made of wood, but rather a specially chosen, exceptionally sturdy metal. I was truly looking forward to it. A family of 7, carrying my dowry chest, fled in all directions. When they reached a dead end, hearing it contained 10,000 taels of gold, they rallied their spirits. After finally prying the chest open, they discovered it held the Xiao family's ancestral tablets. Just thinking about it was thrilling. While they were fleeing, I should pack my bags and make my escape too. After that, I never heard another word about Xiao Hongfei, and those 5 prodigious children never amounted to anything. The future chancellor, the future general, the future peerless beauty, all vanished. Right now, I'm reclining in a deck chair, cucumber slices draped over my eyes. "Hey, girl, you really don't plan on finding another husband?" My brother's voice came from above me. I stretched lazily, exhaled deeply, and breathed in the free air of the sea. "Find what? You don't think I'd ever go back, do you?" I popped the cucumber slices into my mouth, chewed a couple of times, and struck the classic Titanic pose, arm raised against the wind. The sea breeze swept over me in waves, washing over my entire body. Here, there was no oppression of novelistic plots, no oppression of chastity monuments, no oppression of imperial power. The air was thick with the sweetness of freedom. I could sing at the top of my lungs. I could sail to the other side of the sea. I could be carefree. I could finally be myself again. The end.